Really, really hope that it works this time. I really, really, really hope that this is it.
I think it is. I think it will be.
Why? On what? I mean, what could you possibly be basing that you think that it is? I mean, I'm an empirical. What's the evidence in the past that this would work?
It just has to.
And ladies and gentlemen, because it has to, it did. Hi, this is Barry B. Man Benning, and alongside my co-host,
I am Richard Morgan, a.k.a. the Morganator.
We are glad to be back at it again after a long hiatus. What you just heard there at the beginning was a test. We've been trying to get this thing set up again. It's been so long. What, a couple of I guess.
It's been a bit.
It's been a bit that we forgot actually how to set this thing up at the beginning, and all sorts of technical snafus were going on. But I like that. He was right, because Rick had not used that that logic, if you will, before. It had to work this time. Well, it just had to.
It just
had to, and so it did. Welcome back, my friend. How have you been?
I've been almost well.
Almost. You had a touch of the crud, something going around.
Yeah, it wasn't the flu. It wasn't strep throat. It wasn't the coronavirus either, which I'm thankful for.
Well, wait a minute. How do you know that it's not the coronavirus? I mean, did you get tested for that?
No, but it hadn't come out when I.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm definitely thankful that for your sake.
Yes.
I'm not thinking about me personally. No. Happy for your sake. So, what have you been seeing since we've been off? We've been taking the holiday. We took the holidays off, basically.
Well, I've been catching up on movies from last year.
Well, what I'm interested. What have you been watching?
So I watched Hellboy, which I think you did too. Finally,
I did. That is correct. So we both managed to get around to watching Hellboy. All of this. So we're right here in the middle of Oscar season and all of these great. And here we are, both watching Hellboy. So what was your take on Hellboy?
We were talking before the show that I think we had interest up through maybe the same point in time in the movie, which was just after midway.
Right, in Hellboy. Yeah, I thought it. I was expecting, after reading the reviews and hearing some people, I expected just a horrendous movie. And certainly by the midway point, I was going, well, this isn't as bad. And it got worse. It definitely did get worse.
I found it enjoyable. I'm like, why did people hate this movie so bad? And I guess I hadn't gotten to that part yet.
Right, to where you go, oh, well, this is why. The CG work was certainly sketchy in places.
Yeah. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't like as bad as, say, it was in The Scorpion King.
Well, yeah, but that was a lot of years ago.
Exactly.
We've had years to, yeah.
But you can definitely tell that, hey, this is CG.
Yeah. I really like David Harbour as Hellboy, and of course you get old pro like Ian McShane, playing Dad.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you who was bad though. I hate to say it, Mila Jovovich was not very good in this. That was a pretty poor performance. But I guess I ended up not hating it quite as much as I thought I would. That's what happens though when you sit back and your expectations are either raised or lowered sometimes to a point where you go, well, it's not, okay, it was bad, but it's not top 10 bad.
And of course they set it up for a possible sequel, which I don't
will never be coming. No, that won't happen. They'll have to reboot this thing again. So what else? Have you seen anything a little more positive than Hellboy over the holidays?
I finally got around to watching The Last Jedi.
Yeah. What'd you think of that?
I almost turned it off like halfway through. I was bored with it.
Now, you're talking about Last Jedi. You're not talking about Rise of Skywalker.
Right, which you and I...
Right. We did see that together. But back to the last a Starfighter. Why am I thinking the last Starfighter? Jedi. So you almost turned it off?
I almost did.
Man, look, there were a couple of problems there, but I didn't think it was that bad.
I thought it was tedious. Like when the First Order big ship was chasing after the fleet, right? And they were picking them off one by one because they were running out of fuel, right?
Right, yeah.
And it got down to like the last captain's ship.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the scene from Austin Powers when he was on the steamroller and he's about to run over a guy. And the guy's like, screaming. And
forever.
They keep cutting back and forth. And they cut to a wide shot and you see like a mile away. That's what that whole sequence reminded me of.
Wow.
I'm like, this is what...
I'm going to agree with you. That whole sequence in there was kind of it was a bit rough. The whole thing with Princess Leia, that was unfortunate. But I think other than that sequence there, I didn't mind the movie that much.
I must say I did like Rise of Skywalker better than I did The Last Jedi. So
yeah, I think it was better too. The problem, I think, sometimes, we're talking about expectations, living up or down to expectations with Hellboy. With this movie, a friend of mine, I was texting with him before we went to see this, and he said I was rather dark about this, but it's true. Look, I'm old enough. I told him, I said, to be honest, the Skywalker saga, truly, it ended around the same time as my childhood, which is 1983. Let's say that ended, and I think a lot of people maybe had too much. You can't recapture magic like that again. You just can't do it. And I've thought, and it's been my opinion, that these three movies, while nowhere, they're not in the ballpark of those first three. I think they are better than the middle. I think they're better than the
prequels.
The prequels, certainly. And on their own, to me, they were entertaining enough. No classics, but they weren't going to be.
But since this was the end of the Skywalker saga, I think they did a pretty good job of wrapping it up.
Yeah. Like I say, I agree with that, and. Disney's gotten a lot of hate. Of course, there's, a lot of hate to go around these days. But they've got a lot of hate for this. And, it's like, Disney's screwed up, Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. And I haven't seen this kind of thing. But I don't know anybody that's saying that Disney screwed up The Mandalorian, right?
True. So
I guess, I don't know. Maybe that's just how they should have. Maybe they shouldn't have touched the Skywalker, saga. Maybe they should have just gone and veered off a little bit more,
They couldn't resist, going to the well.
One
more time.
And why not? It's still making. I know some people say, well, it's disappointing and even financially, but I think they'll take the $1 billion or so that these movies are generating. So
and all the merchandising that goes with it.
Yeah, it may not be as much as may not be as much as they thought it was going to be, but I think it's
by no means a abysmal failure.
It's not an abysmal failure, no. Although some people would tell you, at least critically, they think it's an abysmal failure. So what else? Anything else? Oh, wait a minute. We did see, both of us, we went to see 1917 as well. And I think we both liked that quite a bit. Is that fair? Certainly liked it.
It's one of those you really got to be in the theater to experience.
I agree. I think this is my sure bet of the Oscar of the next Oscars coming up. I think if there's a sure bet, I think Deakins is going to win Best Cinematography because it's really a pretty. It looks like it's all in one shot. Of course, it wasn't in one take, obviously, but They really did he did a fantastic job with the cinematography, which is great. I feel pretty certain that he's going to win another one. Like I say again, he'll have gone 2 out of the last 3 years if he does that. Anything else? Have you seen anything else noteworthy?
No, I did see the Men in Black International, and
oh, really? Yeah, you haven't told me. We haven't talked about that. So is that deserving of all the?
Yes, and more.
Oh, really? Is that?
It's not a good movie. Speaking of bad CG, that's an example of bad CG.
So, worse in your opinion than Hellboy? So you enjoyed Hellboy more than
I did. Wow. Far less enjoyable.
Wow. All right. Well, now I guess that makes me. That kind of makes me want to go see it, just to see how bad it's like. And Lord, I thought I would never say this, but I want to go see Cats now more than I never wanted to go see Cats, even as a play. I never wanted to see it, but the hate on that movie, and just the reviews that were so. And now I've got to see it. I've got to see if it's as miserable as everybody says it is.
So the studio that released it had submitted it initially for Oscar consideration. They have.
That's right. They took it. You've got a flop when they actually take after they put out for your consideration. They just no.
That's got to be like a historic precedent, right?
It may be. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Our bad. We were wrong. Don't waste your time considering this movie.
Please don't consider this movie.
So everybody just is going to want to forget.
So I wonder if like for the Oscar consideration, if there's like a cutoff period, like, oh, I'm sorry, you missed the deadline to withdraw your request.
No, I think pretty much everybody. Everybody was not going to. No one was going to consider that movie anyway. From what I've read.
Well, doesn't it make you wonder how like it got greenlit?
No. I have no idea. I have no trouble knowing why it was greenlit. It's one of the most popular plays of all time.
But wouldn't they have done like tests on the cat?
Look, with our
design and
with our technology, I don't think that. We could do just almost, there's so many cool things you can do. So I think that they thought they could do it. They either didn't have the right people or I don't know. But as soon as those first commercials came out, first trailer, and people were going, whoa, that's, it was just more creepy than.
I just wonder if it was a case of like, the Emperor's New Clothes, like nobody wanted to tell. Hey, maybe we should like go in a different direction.
This doesn't seem right for some reason. Can we? I know it might cost us a little bit on some reshoots and rethinking, but maybe we need to slow this down. And at least the filmmakers of Sonic, they decided to shut things down. Right?
That's right.
They went back completely. It took them a while to do that, but from all accounts, I guess I've seen it too. It does look like a better. They improved. They improved that. Oh man, Cats. I don't know how well this bodes for
the upcoming West Side Story.
Maybe
if only Spielberg had done Cats.
Yeah. Well, I don't. You see, that would be. I actually think that would be much more understandable, though, much more logical in the first place. Even though I say Cats is never anything that excited me, but so Spielberg decides to remake one of the most iconic musicals of all time. It won a bazillion Oscars, including Best Picture. Why does a Best Picture winner need to be remade? Hey, let's remake Singing in the Rain, which wasn't a Best Picture winner, by the way, but still, one of the all-time classic music. You just don't really, you don't do that.
I guess he's conquered every other genre, maybe, so why not conquer the musical genre?
Or at least, well, why can't he just come up with a new with a new musical? Talk to Damien Chazelle, right, and come up with something new. God forbid, come up with something new.
All right. So when was West Side Story?
It was, I believe, West Side Story was 1961, I think. So, you've got a. Not true. I guess maybe there's a lot of people, born now, alive now that don't know much about that movie. But I just, and I don't know. I haven't looked to see whether it's whether they've changed the time period. Are they going to set it back? Is it going to be set back then, or have they updated it to more modern times? I don't know, but I don't really understand that. I think I'm certainly more excited about. I think Dune is released on the same day. I think it's set for a December 18th release this year, and I'll be much more interested in Dune. Having said this, watch this be just the be all end all musical.
Dune the musical.
Let's do that. That would be an interesting.
Now coming to Broadway,
What's that?
Now
It just go right. Just instead of Broadway to film, let's go from film to Broadway. Dune the musical.
Well, I think I saw that they're making Mean Girls into a.
Yeah,
Broadway.
it seems like I saw something. I didn't pay. I didn't. I saw it and then kind of went on. But yeah, I think that's right. So okay, so I've just noticed we're 17 or so minutes in, to this show, and we really have talked about what the idea for this show was to have a recap kind of the bigger stories from 2019, right? And then maybe a preview of things to come in 2020. So how does that sound to you? Is that...
I'm down with it.
Are you down with that?
I'm down.
Okay, so like halfway through the show, let's get into what our idea was originally. So to you, what when you think back on 2019, what are some of the stories that you think about?
I guess maybe one of the biggest things that hit me was how massive of a chunk Disney took out of the box office.
Oh yeah. I would think that's probably maybe the biggest story of the year. I mean, what it made, Disney made $11 billion and some change, and that's just there, with the Disney logo on it. Now that they have Fox, 20th Century Fox, you could bump that up to $13 billion in box office revenue from their movies. Easily an all-time record.
So Disney accounted for over 35% of the domestic box office.
That's amazing. That's
35%.
Yeah. That's a good year. You're having a good year. People can bitch and moan all they want to do about Star Wars, and they're probably not worried about it.
So no wonder they launched Disney Plus, the streaming service in November.
Yeah. That's massive. I would definitely say. Well, you had how many? Well, I guess the biggest contributor to that total is Avengers Endgame, which became the all-time biggest box office hit. I can't. What is it at now?
I think it crossed
2.6 billion, something like that.
I think it crossed the 2 billion mark.
Wow. What'd you think of? Did you see that? You saw that, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
So what was your...
I was not as thrilled with it as
some people.
As Infinity War. I thought Infinity War was a better
I can
movie.
see that argument. Yeah.
A more enjoyable movie.
I think Infinity War was a better movie, but I think all in all, I didn't have a lot of complaints about it. Look, that's a lot of you're trying to tie up, and they did pretty much. 10 years worth of these 22. I think it's 22 films.
Right, including in-game.
Right. I think that was the 22nd. So I think they did about as good a job as you could do with that. It was a little messy in places, but again, that's a lot of loose ends to tie up there. So what'd you think? What'd you think about Fat Thor? So what's your take on Fat Thor?
Moderately enjoyable, but also kind of creepy.
Yeah, they may have played a little too long, but so yeah, you had that. What else? What other Marvel? You had Captain Marvel came out this year, right?
They've announced a Captain Marvel 2.
Well, yeah, it certainly made enough money for that. A little, I guess, as always, some controversy, or at least some people pushing back on that movie, but I thought it was pretty good. Again, pretty good movie, not a great one, but entertaining enough. There was, as far as news go, there was also at least a momentary standoff between Disney and Sony about whether Spider-Man right would continue on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I guess, and cooler heads eventually prevailed on that, thankfully. It's funny. I really kind of figured that would be what would happen.
There's too much money on the table.
Yeah, I was never too much worried about that happening, but it briefly kind of spiked the heart rates of many a superhero and movie fan. But thankfully, that got taken care of. Yeah, just a lot of news as far as Disney / Marvel goes. There was another controversy this year with Martin Scorsese, making the statement that Marvel movies didn't really count as cinema. It was just more like, what did he say? Amusement park rides. To which there were all sorts of opinions back and forth about that. What was your take on that little mini controversy?
It just seems to echo the general argument. There's like the art house, people that think that's what movies really are and should be, but that aren't necessarily commercially successful. And then there's the tentpole pictures that usually are commercially successful and dwarf the art house movies,
but they don't get to get called cinema. That's not really cinema. I never really bought that. I love Scorsese. He's one of the all-time great directors, no doubt about it. And he made another really good one this year. But I don't know. My personal takes, he was a little off on that. I think that the Marvel movies, offer some of the same, types of things that maybe not in the same way, but they offer the same things that any movie that Martin Scorsese has made. They offer high drama at times, a lot of pathos, and some of them, have been really, really good. Mm-hmm. So, to me, it came across as an old time director, maybe being a little jealous. I don't know, or maybe dismissive, and I thought it made him come off a little petty.
It reminds me of what Spielberg said last year regarding Roma.
Yeah.
It wasn't a direct dig at Roma per se, but kind of a slight towards Netflix in general when Roma was being nominated for the Oscars. He said during a speech that he didn't believe that films that are just given token qualifications in a couple of theaters for less than a week should qualify for the Academy Award nomination.
I didn't know that he'd said that. I didn't remember that. But, yeah.
But then I believe that sometime later that year, he signed a deal, I believe, to create content for Apple Plus streaming service, or Apple TV streaming service.
So is he going to boycott himself from...
But
we don't know what, right? We don't know exactly what. Yeah, I don't know. It just sounds...
It sounds petty.
It sounds petty. Like I say, yeah, it sounds a little petty. These guys, things change. You know, the game changes. Some things will never change, I guess, but it does change a little bit, and I think they need to roll with the punches a little bit. They need to put their big boy pants on and just roll with it.
Because it's an industry, right? You know, it's the movie industry. Industry implies business. Well, what's the driving force behind business?
Classic, art versus business thing. And when it's done right, they can be, they can live with each other. You know, you can have big budget art. I believe that. Some people will argue. I guess Martin Scorsese will argue that point. But
it's like the beer commercial campaign years ago. You know, great taste, less feeling. Great taste, less feeling. Well, it has both. You know, or the Twix commercial, the left Twix and the right Twix.
Can't we all just get along? Oh, is that about all the Marvel about all the Marvel Disney news that we'd come up from last year? I know there's more. There's got to be more, but let's see what else. Well, in the same comic, in the vein of comics with Marvel, we had another comic movie. Joker comes out and becomes I can remember when this thing was first, being talked about. Todd Phillips is going to direct this, low budget for the genre. What was it, 40, 50 million at the time they were talking about early on. Low budget, dark movie about a villain, not a hero, a villain. And just how's this going to play out, right? How in the world is this going to play out? It played out to $1 billion plus at the box office. First R-rated movie to ever crack $1 billion. And, by the way, 11 Oscar nominations, the most of any movie this year, including The Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or 1917. It's got more than those movies. It's got 11. So, $1 billion. Now we'll have a slew of bad guy comic book movies, or at least, I was thinking of some Morbius, coming up this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think usually, at least in, he used to be thought of as a villain, right? He's a villain in the Spider-Man comics, but he's kind of morphed into kind of like the Joker, the tragic anti-hero figure. Not, he's bad, but he was made that, it was society that did it or whatever, whatever it did to him. Anyway, I'm not near as excited. I saw the first Morbius trailer. I don't have to say I'm not convinced on this one yet.
I'm not either.
Of course, Leto is, when he's got the right role, he can be very, very good. So, although, and I'll be honest, I didn't see Suicide Squad. I don't know his take on Joker.
Well, he was only in Suicide Squad. The Joker was only in Suicide Squad for just a brief.
So it didn't have much screen time?
No.
Yeah. But from what I've read, it didn't it wasn't well received in some quarters, I guess, his take on it. What did you think about it?
I thought it was, a pretty good take as an original take. What really wasn't like the other two previous Jokers, Ledger's Joker or Nicholson's Joker.
Right.
Made it his own, so
in that respect, yeah, and then here comes Phoenix. Yeah. I mean, that character has had some real interesting takes and different takes, like you say, from some pretty big name actors. Now, on the flip side of that superhero / supervillain, going back to the superhero news of last year, with Joker's nemesis, Batman. There's some pretty big news there too, right?
Right. So Ben Affleck is no longer the Cape Crusader.
Yeah.
It's now going to be Robert Pattinson of Twilight fame.
Yeah, I know that's where a lot of people, naturally are going to think of Robert Pattinson as Edward, right? In the the Twilight movies, but he is really. I know a lot of people when they heard Robert Pattinson's going to be Batman. He's really developed into a heck of a good young actor since then. He's been trying different roles, harder movies. His degree of difficulty is, on some of these roles been really high. And personally, I'm pretty excited about Pattinson being the next Batman. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people that aren't familiar, with some of his post Twilight work. Like I thought he was in the best movie of last year. I think the best movie I saw last year was The Lighthouse, and he was terrific in that. He was really good in The Lost City of Z. Took a supporting role in that. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of good things to come from him, including, and we'll get into this a little bit later in this episode, he's got a movie definitely coming out this year that's going to get a lot of mention, a lot of money, too, probably.
It'd be interesting to see if he's a supporting character and how much screen time he has.
Yeah, it will be. So while we're on the DC character thing here, that reminds me of another thing that's been going on, I think not just last year, but a couple of years now, is this released Snyder Cut. Release the Snyder Cut movement that we have right now. And I really don't know, what all do you know about that?
So I've seen Justice League.
Yeah.
And as much as I love Zack Snyder's movies, I just don't know how much of a difference the Snyder Cut would make to that movie that would make it any more enjoyable than...
Well, but then now some of the actors in the movie itself, right, I guess that have supposedly seen this cut, say it's just much better, right? Is that how that's going?
Behind the scenes, now, I don't know if Time Warner Brothers is going to actually release a Snyder Cut.
Could this just all be a build-up for, just... It's in their mind already. They're going to release it. It's just, let's be patient for a couple of years and we'll resurrect this thing and make some more money off of it. There's really, so you've seen, I've seen Justice League too. And it just kind of, I didn't think it was terrible, right? It was just a lot. It was just like every other Snyder movie to me in the DC catalog, pretty much, that he's done. And it's all right. But that's it. It's all right. It's no,
Avengers?
No.
We don't want to get, too much hate mail from the DC.
Oh, well, no one likes hate mail, but I will say I'll say what I feel. The Marvel movies are, they have been, on the whole, better. On the whole, there's been a couple of... I've liked the direction that DC has gone. Mm-hmm. The last few movies, I think DC has, made strides in. And to be honest, it's, not been Snyder stuff.
You enjoyed Aquaman.
I did. I did like Aquaman. I thought it was entertaining. I loved Wonder Woman. And even though Joker is not, it's a DC, it's a DC character, right? So, that was a good movie. Don't know that it deserves 11. I don't know that it deserves a Best Picture nomination, but they're moving in the right direction.
So speaking of moving in the right direction, why don't we move into 2020?
Okay.
So how do you think the box office this year is going to do?
This year?
This year.
Well, once we get into talking about the movies, it's just, I'm gonna say it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to beat last year's total. To be honest, it's going to be tough.
So historically, for the past 3 years, right? So 2017 set a new record.
Okay.
2018 set a new record, and 2019 set a new record. So that's 3 years in a row.
No, wait. You're talking about, just to clarify, you're talking about
global box
office,
right?
Because last year's domestic
was down
4%, I believe.
Right.
But thanks to China, maybe mostly of all, it was an all-time global record.
Right.
So I think it's going to be. And you think about that. So we were down 4% domestically, though. Last
and it was still
year.
a record,
and that's with huge,
year.
Right? But so that tells you how much money was made the previous year, because last year was loaded with. So we had the number one box office movie of all time came out last year, and some other big blockbusters. So if that slate of movies was still down from the previous year's record, then I think this year's going to have a tough road.
I agree. And plus, also this year, it's the continuing rise of the streaming services. So there's more streaming services out there than last year before,
Right. Yeah. And everybody, this is causing, a lot of studios, and they think that, every movie's got to be the home run. We're back to shooting for the fences with fewer and fewer movies being made by the I guess the big boys, and they're becoming they're trying to become more tentpole movies, or more or they're hitching their star to something that's already hit, which last year. They may need to think about this again, because last year saw quite a few movies that sequels and whatnot that just did not
sequelitis.
Right, didn't cut it. They just weren't successful either. Both financially and critically. Terminator movie,
Dark Fate had a dark fate.
It definitely is very appropriately titled. Dark Fate, Dark Phoenix, pretty dark. Sequelitis dark. But I'm going back to last year's stuff. So, how do you want to go about this? How do you want to go about talking about the movies that are going to try to? They're certainly going to. They don't want to do worse than last year. They want to try to beat them.
So, what's come out so far this year that looks interesting to you?
That's come out so far this year that's interesting? Not much. There's a reason why January and February, are pretty much, at least historically in the past, have been considered dumping grounds, for the most part. You've got your prestige Oscar, movies that are still playing, and trying to, but talking about new movies, usually it's it's tough pickings around this time of the year. I know that I was interested in this last weekend. We had the face-off was Doolittle versus Bad Boys. I can't remember what's the
For Life.
Bad Boys for Life, and Bad Boys for Life. We're talking about last year's sequelitis was kind of dark. This one was not dark, at all as far as the numbers are concerned. It started out strong. I want to say it had one of the biggest January openings ever. I think
the last tally that I saw, that's made over $83 million to date.
So that's that's a strong number, and again, getting out of the gate pretty good, at least with that one. I don't know. I know that Doolittle, I don't think is a complete disaster, but that movie had a hefty price tag. I can't remember what the overall budget on Doolittle was, but
I think it was $175 million.
Oh, whoa, yeah.
So,
that's
hopefully it will pick up steam from its $32 million take, which, by the way, matter of comparison, that means that they broke even for paying Robert Downey Jr. $20 million.
Oh yeah,
to be Doolittle.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a bargain almost, considering what he made off of the playing Iron Man in the Marvel movies. That's cheap, $20 million. I mean, Jim Carrey made that back in the 90s. Didn't he get paid something like that for The Mask, I think, or for, I can't remember which was the first of his movies that he got whopping paycheck back then.
So Doolittle might be the first family adventure movie coming out this year, but it's not the only one coming out this year.
Okay. What else we got coming down the pike?
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, well, that's another one of those movies, kind of like Doolittle, troubled production history, because Doolittle went through they added another writer came in to punch up some dialogue, I believe, and then someone else actually came in for a month. I can't remember who it was, and directed some reshoots. So what was the deal with Sonic? I know they had to do something.
I think it was with the design of Sonic.
Yeah.
They released a photo initially of how Sonic was going to look, and the internet didn't like it.
The internet said no.
So the creators of the movie literally went back to the drawing board and redesigned the character to make it look more like the video game version.
So that's not without a little expense, probably. I know certainly time. I don't know when that was supposed to be released earlier last year, right?
I believe so.
So what is the internet saying about the new Sonic?
They seem to like the look, of Sonic, but I don't know that the trailer has made the movie well received as a whole.
Okay, but as far as just that one thing goes, they believe that it at least looks more Sonic-y, more Hedgehog-y,
right?
Whatever the
right.
Okay,
and speaking of Jim Carrey, he's also in this movie playing the villain.
Right. I don't think he's probably not got that $20 million paycheck playing Dr. Robotnik, right?
Right.
I keep rooting for Jim. Jim. It seems a lot of times here Jim's been the best thing, in the last few movies that he's done. He just can't he hasn't been able to find a really good project in a while. And this may not be it either. So what else? What else after Sonic?
The Call of the Wild.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can remember, the first time I heard about that, I was like, well, Harrison Ford, and this Jack London tale, this sounds like a pretty good pairing. And then I saw the trailer.
We did see the trailer, and
just that CGI, again, just a bunch of fake, cartoony, looking CG stuff. Obvious. You're CG. Right. Obvious. Yeah, that's really taken me off that movie.
So you don't hear or feel the call of the wild?
No, I'm not hearing the call of the wild there.
So they should call it the call of the green screen, right?
Exactly. That looks like at least the filmmakers heeded that call. They did heed the call of the green screen. So now both of those previous two movies that have been mentioned, the Sonic and Call of the Wild, are both February releases, right? I think.
Yeah, Sonic's the 14th, and Call of the Wild comes out next week. It's the 21st.
The following. Okay. All right. And then, so heading into March, we've got My Spy. Am I saying that right? That's the Dave Bautista comedy.
Action comedy
family adventure. Right. Action comedy family adventure, where he's a CIA operative, I think, that's somehow gets paired with a 9-year-old girl. Yeah, he's following, I guess, in the footsteps of all these big muscular, all the big muscular action heroes have to have a movie where they're paired with some kid to help get out. Of course, you got to get the family money in there. So Arnold had Kindergarten Cop was at least one where he was paired with a kid. And then, my favorite dude, my favorite actor, my man, Vin Diesel, he had, what was his, remember he had something that was, he got paired with was he a Baby the Pacifier or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
And The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Tooth Fairy.
Tooth Fairy. Yeah, well, he's probably done more than, He's definitely had his family-friendly fare with Disney, of course. I believe we'll talk about another one he's got. This is going to be a big one, too. This is going to be a big one coming out this year. I would imagine it's going to be one of the biggest moneymakers of the year.
Based on another amusement park.
Right, yeah. More Disney money. But anyway, this one, My Spy, Dave Bautista steps into the muscle-bound action hero teaming with a kid.
Which, I mean, who doesn't like to see the big size difference between a child and,
Well, and so that's a March, right? We moved. That was a March, somewhere in the middle of March. And then what? So the next one I want to say is, good lands. What was coming up after that?
Peter Rabbit 2.
Peter Rabbit 2, and that's probably, is that still March or is that April? We move it.
Let's see.
There, we move it. We're going by genre, and then
backing our way into the release,
right? Into the so we're going forward with release dates here, but sticking with this family / adventure type-ish.
Multi-hyphen,
right? So Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway. At first, when I first saw that, I was like, Peter Rabbit 2? That's kind of, it seems like a slight movie to get a why in the world? And of course, I don't know why. I asked myself, why does any movie get a sequel? Right? We were talking about this earlier. It's a business. So I went and looked at the original Peter Rabbit's box office. Well, first I looked at its. I believe its budget was $50 million. $50 million.
Wow,
a little bit higher than I thought, but.
That's pretty good for an animated movie.
It is. However, it made worldwide $350-something million, I believe.
Wow.
Much more money than I...
7 times its budget.
Right. I was like, what? This movie, Peter Rabbit, made $350 worldwide, so of course they're going to... It would be crazy not to make that sequel.
And Margot Robbie's featured... voices featured in.
So it's her voice, because this is a mixture, right, of live action and animation. Right? I think the rabbits, of course, are animated, but I thought that it was a live action mixture. I thought they were. If we get Margot Robbie's actual, if we get her in the movie, there's a much higher chance that I will go see that. I love you, by the way, Lisa, my lovely wife. Just let me mention right now, I love you.
Okay,
I'm just fan. Margot Robbie is a terrific actress. She is terrific actress.
So Peter Rabbit comes out April the 3rd.
April the 3rd. Okay. That's probably some more green to be, to be nibbled on by that rabbit. I'm sure. Some more carrots. And on the heels of that, I see there's going to be another version of the Secret Garden, which was, I saw the early '90s version of that movie. There's been several versions of that movie done, and that was a really good family movie, but
not a Disney movie. However, the next two on our list are Disney movies.
You were just sitting. You were waiting. You're waiting for me to say that. So, what are those two family / fantasy / adventure?
Multi-hyphenate.
Right.
So, Artemis Fowl is the next one, which I think was going to come out last year and it got pushed to this year.
It was, I think, originally set for like June or July of this last year, but I guess they figured they had enough bullets in their gun to where they could just hold off.
Maybe Disney felt bad about capturing, 35% of the market last year. So
well, how
we don't want to do 36 or 37%. So
how big of them? stepping over the fray there. That's nice.
Or maybe they saw into 2020 and they're like, we need to capture a little more market share for 2020.
I think that's probably more the case. Yeah, that's an interesting one too. I remember seeing. I want to say I did see a brief clip of that they had available, and I thought it looked pretty weird. Looked pretty
Looked pretty weird, cool.
Right. I don't know how. We've got this in the fan. It's a Disney, but this may be a darker. This may be a darker piece.
Darker than Jungle Cruise?
I'm gonna say maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna say yes. So Artemis Fowl, when's that coming up? What month are they going to release that in?
Comes out May 29th.
May 29th. And then the Jungle Cruise will be surely the following. It's got to be a June or July movie, I would think.
That would be a July 24th release.
Okay. That should be pretty big movie. Who's his co-star? We got The Rock. We got Dwayne Johnson. Who's his female co-star?
Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt. Yeah,
one of our favorites.
Absolutely, indeed, for sure. I'm looking forward to that movie. Even though I know it's based on a Disney. Right? I can't help it.
Well, it worked for Pirates of the Caribbean or Caribbean.
What's that?
It worked for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right. So, well, it worked. Financially, it worked for I like the first one. The first one, that's the only one of those Pirates movies I liked was the first one. I'm such a stick in the mouth. I don't know, Gore Verbinski. They just got bigger and more bloated, and Johnny Depp got lazier.
They still made money, though.
Oh, yeah. They made a ton of money. That's why they make...
Which goes back to our earlier discussion.
All right. Yeah, I'm not throwing that in the art. That's definitely in the commerce bin, not in the art bin, for sure.
So one movie we didn't mention in the family adventure category...
Right.
That's still an action-adventure drama movie... is Disney's Mulan. Live-action version Mulan.
Commerce-wise, you can't blame. Look at what Aladdin, made bank. The Lion King, all of these are,
Dumbo.
Yeah, well, not all of them. You're right. Dumbo did not. But with the money that Aladdin and the Lion King pulled in, they can afford a Dumbo here or there. And this looks pretty. I will say, I saw the trailer, one of the trailers the other day, and I'm intrigued by this one, actually. I think this one looks fairly good.
I'm pretty excited about it. I know there's been some controversy with the lead actress and her...
Oh, God.
Statements about the...
Oh, no. I haven't heard... No, this is a controversy I don't know about. Everything's a controversy. That's what I'm going to make a movie just controversy. Wait, Prince already did... Well, I think Prince made an album, Controversy, but we need a movie.
Well, continuing in the Marvel versus cinema controversy, right? That was straight up last year. What Marvel movies do we have coming out this year? I know there's got to be some, right?
You got Eternals, right? Or is that for sure? I'm not sure if that... I don't know if there's an exact release date on Eternals yet or not. Now, I do know, of course, Black Widow will be coming out. We're going to have controversy there.
Let's see. According to IMDb, they're showing November the 6th.
November the 6th for Eternals. Okay.
But we'll see.
Yeah. So we've got Eternals, Black Widow, and Morbius, which will be, maybe this is Marvel's volley. Hey, DC's got $1 billion villain / anti-hero movie. Let's see what we can do. So that would be the closest thing I would think to being controversial. With Jared, I guess Jared Leto is in the lead there, right? Mm-hmm. Playing Morbius. And I don't remember much about that character. I know he's a Spider-Man foe, but I don't remember that much about Morbius. So, I mean, that part of it's kind of interesting, but what I saw, I don't know that I did see a little bit. I don't know how impressed I was with what I saw. This is a big question mark for me this year.
But as we've talked about, Disney and Marvel can afford to roll the dice on,
anything
based on last year. So it's like, this year we'll just,
Well, Black Widow's going to be. I think Black Widow's going to be huge, huge, huge. This movie's maybe a little bit. A lot of people certainly would say this movie's overdue to be out. Mm-hmm. Should have already made this. And then that cast, ScarJo, and then you've got Florence Pugh in it, who is on a roll. That young actress, eventually is going to be an Oscar winner, no doubt. She's great. And our old friend David Harbour is back. Maybe he'll have a little bit better luck. Maybe a little bit better luck this time. And I can't remember. Seems like I can't remember who else is in that movie, but it's. I'm really looking forward to that one.
The trailer looked very impressive.
I agree. It looked good.
So what other Disney movies are coming out?
Disney
animated movies.
That they actually produced,
right?
That they were a production company. We've got what? Onward,
which is a Pixar, right?
Right. And I don't know. See, this is where I sometimes get caught. I don't keep up with my animated movies quite as much as I either used to or should. But we've got Onward, Soul, mm-hmm. which is, again, that's Disney, Pixar, mm-hmm. again, right? We've got Raya and the Last Dragon. I think Awkwafina is doing the main character's voice in that. And what is it? The one and only Ivan, which has got several big name actors doing voices there. We had Angelina Jolie, mm-hmm. Danny DeVito, Helen Mirren, and Bryan Cranston, I think. So, and I don't know, again, to be honest, I really don't know much about those movies. But if Disney animation, they're likely to be big, or at least a couple of them will, mm-hmm. for sure. And, I think with mentioning those, I think that's pretty much, I think we mentioned pretty much all of the big movies that Disney is producing. It's a production company are involved with. There's certainly, as a distributor, there'll be even more, trying to think of what else. I think they had a part in distributing Underwater, which is kind of, in the tank, so to speak, so far. The Woman in the Window, Death on the Nile. They'll be distributing, at least in part, that should be interesting. That's going to be the next Hercule Poirot mystery. After what was a couple of years ago, Murder on the Orient Express.
Right,
Kenneth
right.
Branagh plays Hercule Poirot, and so I think he does double duty again as mm-hmm. star and director in this one. And West Side Story, I believe they also will be one of the distributors for West Side Story coming up, which should be pretty interesting. So that's kind of, I guess, the Disney slate for 2020. Not as heavy as last year's schedule. I don't think they'll do 11 billion this year, even including the Fox movies that they'll get to count, I guess. But we shall see. And those, like I say, those 4 animated movies, and I don't know what are. I know we've got at least a couple other noteworthy animated movies coming out this year, right?
Right. What's interesting
that aren't Disney.
One thing that's interesting to note about the Disney animated movies, they're all original titles. They're not sequels.
Hey, all right. Well, that's promising, right? There's some hope.
So maybe they're going to build off of this new slate.
Well, you've got to, you got to build. You can't cannibalize off the past forever, or can you? I don't know. Maybe you can. Maybe you can.
If anybody could,
it would be right. It would be Disney.
But on the other spectrum of the animated movies, there's several that are sequels or at least franchise titles.
Okay.
So we've got Trolls World Tour.
Trolls World Tour. Yeah, I did not see the original. Again, like I say, I just haven't kept up with my animation over the last few years.
And Trolls apparently did pretty well at the theater, box office theater. So it raked in $347 million.
Nice, yeah.
Which would explain why
there's a Trolls World Tour. Right. Well, that number surprised me a little bit. Maybe it shouldn't.
Then we have the SpongeBob movie. I believe this is number...
There we go.
3?
SpongeBob. I think this will be the third theatrical movie.
Sponge on the Run.
Looking forward to that one.
Sponge Out of Water brought in $325 million.
Not chump change.
Not chump change at all. Then we have Minions, The Rise of Gru.
Now that's... I don't know the exact number on the last Minions, but I know that is definitely not chump change. What did that one roll in at finally?
A whopping $1.1 billion.
Jeez Louise. $1 billion. So the last Minions itself was a $1 billion movie.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see how well.
Right. Well, all of those, all of the Despicable Me movies, of course, did boffo box office. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
And then The Croods 2.
The Crew. I missed that one as well. Well, yeah, it's got to be one of Nick Cage's, even though, it's an anime, it's got to be one of his biggest titles ever, I would assume. What did the first Croods?
This surprised me. This really surprised me. $580 million.
Man, we are in the wrong business, my friend. We need to. I should have really developed that doodling skill I once had back in the.
Who would have thought, right?
Right. 580, and then I know there's going to be a couple of. You mentioned SpongeBob, the SpongeBob movie, which is of course based on the hit television show. I think there's going to be a couple of other animated movies, theatrical, that are based on, if not existing shows, TV shows, then
at least franchise.
Right. You got what? Scoob? Scoob. Oh.
I think it's a story of how.
Is it an origin? Is Scooby origin story
of how Scooby and Shaggy met? I think.
Do you know anything else about? Do you have any? Do you have any voice? Do we have any named voice actors that? My youngest girl, Kenda. Oh my gosh, she was the biggest Scooby. She wrote like 2 letters into the Scooby-Doo comic book, that got published, and she was such a huge. I was too.
So here's some of the names.
Okay.
So Zac Efron's going to be Fred. Amanda Seyfried is going to be Daphne. Let's see who else we got here. Gina Rodriguez is going to be the voice of Velma.
Oh, I see. I do think Frank Welker, long time. Frank Welker is one of the legends in the voice acting world. He's going to be Scooby Doo. I'm pretty sure. Who's Shaggy? Who's playing Shaggy, or who's voicing Shaggy?
And Will Forte is going to be voicing the voice of Shaggy.
Shaggy. All right. I say, well, it looks like I'm like quickly look at Mark Wahlberg's going to be doing a voice as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Jeong, Tracy Morgan. So, well, it's got some, it's got some named actors in it. Scoob. I don't think either one of us is sold on Scoob yet, though. And then Bob's Burgers, the movie, which, Bob's Burgers has been on quite a long time, longer than I thought. I was checking the other day. I can't remember how many seasons now, but it's been on a while.
Which I wonder, is this going to be a Disney release since, Disney bought Fox?
That's a question I cannot answer at this moment. I'm sorry. I was not prepared for, we try to prepare for some certain, and as a lot of listeners will be able to know, we don't do the greatest job of it sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that gets counted as Disney money or not.
Well, our intern researched for us and just handed me a Post-it note. So, yes.
So I stalled long enough for the...
We have the answer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's got to be, right? There's no way it couldn't be. Well, look, once again, we have miscalculated just how long. I mean, we could keep... We're at, I know we're around an hour. We've been talking around an hour. We're going to have to come back at this to finish up the year slate. There's so many other genres of movies we haven't talked about. We just don't have the time for this episode.
A fitting sequel?
Right. Well, once again, yeah, of course. We came in here and we thought, we'll blast this sucker out in an hour or so and we'll be done. Wrong again. But, I'm looking forward to because even like I said, I don't know that this year is going to measure up to last, at least domestically. There's no telling, no telling what the worldwide numbers are going to be with China continuing to grow. I think that growth has it wasn't quite as high last year as it was the year before as far as the rate increase goes, but who knows? So let's call it here. We'll come back next time. We'll talk about in very short. We can't wait too much longer. We'll talk about all of those action movies and sci-fi movies and horror movies that are coming up.
Which is a bunch.
A bunch of them. You bet. All right. Well, it's good to be back in the saddle again. Good to see you again, my friend. And I look forward to seeing you again next week.
And we'll continue rolling on with 2020.
Indeed.
Absolutely. All right. So Nobsters, you can find us on social media. Hit us up on Twitter. We're at Film Nobs. We have a Facebook page, an Instagram account, a Pinterest board. You can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Libsyn and B-Man.
All right. Thank you, Rick. And thank you, everyone out there in podcast land. We'll catch you next time.